Hello everyone and welcome to our video module on best practices and tips for your lease agreement. We're so glad to have you here with us today. I want to introduce myself. My name is Renee and I'm the director of the Napa-Sonoma ADU Center. And I'm joined today by Annie, who I'm going to let introduce herself briefly.
Hi, I'm Annie McNeely. I'm the Director of Property Management with Burbank Housing.
Thanks so much for joining us, Annie. All right, so today we're going to go over an overview of a lease agreement, 5 things that folks often mess up on a lease agreement, 5 things that folks often don't understand about a lease agreement, and then final key tips on lease agreements. And I should just note that the information contained in this video is solely information and does not constitute legal advice. With that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Annie, to walk us through some of your key tips.
Sure. So it's important to know that a lease is a legal contract, and it's an agreement between both parties that gives each party the security of knowing that they'll be accountable for holding up their end of the agreement. If you need to make a change to the lease, you have to give the resident at least 30 days notice, and the change must be reasonable. So this is an example of a residential lease. It's a NOLO press document and it's available at stores like Staples. And we like this agreement because it actually comes with very detailed instructions on how to fill it out. It also outlines laws that are specific to the state of California. So it's really important that you pay attention to laws specific to California. So when doing a notice of termination, and this law has changed over the years, but if the tenant has been there less than 12 months, then you can give them a 30-day notice. If they've been there longer than 12 months, it's required that you give them a 60-day notice to terminate tenancy. So some of the mistakes that people make on their lease are to follow. Go ahead, Renee, change that. For instance, consistently allowing late rent payments without charging a late fee. So what this does, it gives the tenant this feeling that you're a really nice landlord. I've been late a couple times. He hasn't charged me. So you may think you're doing the right thing and not charging your resident, but what will happen is if this behavior continues and then you try and charge a late fee, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, you sort of changed the terms of the lease. You haven't been charging us late fees for the last 6 months. Now you want to go ahead and do it. So it may cause a problem for you going forward and being able to charge this resident late fees if you don't do it consistently. You also have to give 24 hours notice before entering a unit unless it's an emergency. An emergency means fire or flood or something very, very serious like that. Otherwise, you need to post on the door that you will be entering the unit 24 hours prior to going in. And if you can give a longer notice, that's even better. Often people prorate incorrectly. They think that every month has 30 days in it, or that that's how they prorate their rent. What you need to do is prorate the rent by the number of the days in the month, whether it's 31 days, 30, or 28 days, use the actual number of days in the month you're prorating. Also, be sure to cross out any items on the lease that don't apply. If it says it has a swimming pool and it doesn't, you need to make sure you have that crossed out. If it says that it comes with a refrigerator and it doesn't, you have to make sure that that is crossed out. So really be familiar with the lease that you're using and go ahead and prepare it in advance. There's also some areas of confusion too for a lot of small landlords. So if you have special rules about your unit, if it's no smoking, make sure you say so in the lease. If there is a specific parking spot for them, and that's the only place they can park, make sure that you state that. If you have quiet hours, let's say 10 o'clock on, make sure that your lease states that. And this can be done as an addendum to the lease if there's not space within the lease to spell these out. So be sure that you think about everything that you want in a tenant. You should also require renter's insurance to be held by the tenant. This protects both you and them. For instance, should they cause a flood that ruins your flooring, their insurance will cover the costs of that. Otherwise, they can be held liable for that cost. So it's something that really benefits both parties. If your utility meters are separate, ask for proof that the utility has been placed in the tenant's name. It's really easy for them to get that. PG&E will provide it. Also, if your resident decides they want to add a roommate or they're getting married, you can go ahead and run a criminal and credit check on that additional person. You do not have to take them sight unseen. You can go through all the steps that you took in order to place your original tenant. Also, landlords must allow service animals regardless of your general pet policy. And this is a gray area. And even doing this for 25 years, it is still a gray area. So you want to be able to be specific about what kind of pet they can have. And by doing so, you can say that it has to be under 25 pounds, or you allow a cat, but not a dog. So you can try and guide them through that. But in the end, if they have a doctor stating that they need this particular animal, you have to allow it. But you can also put rules in place stating that they need to pick up after the pet, that they can't leave pet waste on the property. You can also require that they show you proof that the animal has been vaccinated and is up on its shots. So there are things that you can do to help protect yourself if they do have a service animal. And also, we have some final tips to ensure your success. So like I said before, make sure that your lease is very explicit in the expectations for both parties. You don't want to assume anything. You want to have a very clear written agreement between you and your resident. And don't fall into the trap of having a friend live there without a lease. You need to have protection, legal protection, which is in the form of a lease contract, even if your tenant is a friend or a family member.
Thank you so much, Annie. That was wonderful advice. We appreciate it so, so much. And we appreciate all of you for joining us. We hope this was helpful to you as you launch into being an ADU landlord. And we hope you have a wonderful day.